Greetings, Ken McAuliffe, Jazz Vinyl Audiophile, back once again. Thanks for joining my channel. If you haven't joined my channel, I would ask that you please like and subscribe. That allows me to keep doing this silly thing that I'm doing year after year after year to you, my beloved public. A couple new features here on the Audiophile channel. If you would like to talk to me, Ken McAuliffe, about hi-fi, which I'm surrounded by, 1, 2, 3, many turntables I'm reviewing, and amplifiers and speakers, or if you just want to talk about jazz and get greater insights, you can do so by setting up a little phone call with moi via this email below. More importantly, let's discuss Miles Davis' Birth of the Blue. Now, this gathers together 4 tracks that have been wildly available for many years on various sources. I know this music from a 1973 compilation called Basic Miles, but it also came out under Miles 58 and a couple other compilations, or also on Jazz Track from 1959 or something. So these tracks were recorded a year prior to the masterpiece Kind of Blue with the exact same lineup. And for me, hearing these tracks, which is some of the first jazz I ever purchased in my early, I don't know, 17 or something, hearing these played back as I did last night at a press event on a beautiful system and beautiful fidelity, and then later on my own system, was really a revelation and really kind of touched me emotionally, because even though these tracks are essentially a blowing session on Green Dolphin Street, Fran Dance, the only semi-original Stella By Starlight and Love for Sale, the solos on these tracks are otherworldly. I mean, they are as great to me as anything on a Kind of Blue. Particularly the solos by Bill Evans and John Coltrane on Stella By Starlight are just, they're stellar, man. From another planet. They are so beautiful. You get all of Bill Evans' sparseness, followed by, you know, Coltrane sounds like he's commandeering a ship at sea. It's just so huge. And Adderley's in incredible form. And Miles' muted trumpet sounds so beautiful throughout all 4 tracks. So to hear these tracks in really beautiful high fidelity is, for me, kind of really amazing. I've told this story before. I'll tell it again. I don't know. My first day in New York City was sometime in 1978, or was it 79? In 79, I played around the corner from where I live now at a club called the Bitter End. I played upstairs. It's now downstairs. It was called the Other End for a while. But I was in a band that was touring the East Coast, and I came to visit my sister here in 1979, later that same year, who lived on 81st Street in Columbus, which is parallel to Amsterdam Avenue. So we were at 78th in Amsterdam. My sister said Miles Davis lives down that block, and I didn't know who Miles Davis was. I sort of knew who he was, and I walked down the block, and there he was out front of his building, which was a giant sort of Spanish stucco adobe thing, talking to some woman. Actually, she was talking to him. And I said, "Do you mind if I take your photo?" And he did one of those, and that resulted in this photograph, which I still have. And after that, I went back and really started checking out Miles, and I just fell in love with the music. You know, I was coming out of Fusion. I was a big fan of Mach Vishnu Orchestra and Return to Forever and all that stuff. So this was the next step in my jazz evolution. And Basic Miles and these 4 songs were some of the very first songs I heard. And even then, I didn't know who any musicians were, but the music was so arresting. And after that, I also got into Miles Ahead, which at the time I would hear the title track to Miles Davis, Miles Ahead, on the late show in the middle of the night. And I would go, what is that music? It was like the theme music. Anyway, this was cut from the original tapes here at Battery Studios in New York City. Now, the rumor was that Sony would never let this original tape out of their studios or out of wherever they hold the music, somewhere probably in Midtown. Sony is at Madison Avenue and 55th. I don't know if they keep the tapes there. I remember once when they did the 50th anniversary Kind of Blue, I did a story for Downbeat, I think, and I met Mark Wilder at what was formerly the Record Plant, where they recorded John Lennon Double Fantasy and all this stuff. And he had the case there. So I had my hands on the original Kind of Blue copy, actually, the copy safety, which was the correct speed. Anyway, I don't know if the tapes for this were there or somewhere else, but they were taken from there to Battery Studios in New York, and Matthew Lutthans cut the lacquers. They worked on Doug Sax's, great gear. This is a top flight Chad Kassem Analogue Productions mastering job or remastering job, and the sonics on this don't sound as good as Kind of Blue. In the many different configurations of Kind of Blue, or even just a like 70s era Kind of Blue, these aren't as great. The sonics aren't as great, and there's nothing modal on this record. This is a blowing session, but to me it's the perfect bookend to Kind of Blue, and they've really gone out of their way to replicate the look of a late 50s Columbia pressing. 100% all analog, mastered and cut to lacquer from the original master tape. Supervised by Steve Berkowitz, executive producer Chad Kassem, mixed by Vic Anesini at Battery Studios, mastered by Matthew Lutthans at the Mastering Lab, liner notes by Ashley Kahn, designed by James Wolfe. And this album is actually the brainchild of Chad Kassem, which sort of surprised me. We had a big press event downtown, and Ashley Kahn was there, and Chad Kassem and Matt Hanks from Shorefire Media, and collected different people from the media were there. Not that many people, just a pretty small event. They're doing it again tonight at Innovative Audio uptown. Same performance, different journalist. But I asked whose idea was this, and it was Chad's, because he knew all these various compilations. And it's funny, I don't think of Chad as a hardcore, serious jazz guy. I think of him more like I do Herb Reichert, in a way. Somebody who really loves Elvis and proto rock and roll. But Chad's a very thoughtful guy, and it was great to see him there. I broke my ankle a couple of years ago. He broke his ankle many years ago, but he was still recovering last year, and we commiserated a lot about our various pain and torture troubles. But I think this is great, and if you love Kind of Blue, you should get this record, if nothing else but for the incredible solos by this band. This is a very unique lineup of guys who played seamlessly together and inspired each other in really kind of cerebral ways. Miles Davis, Julian Adderley, they left out Cannonball, John Coltrane, Bill Evans, Paul Chambers, James Cobb, Jimmy Cobb. This is such an amazing group, and you can hear that on Kind of Blue. Just, they had a special communication thing going on, and that's also happening here. This is a remarkable group. I interviewed Jimmy Cobb once about something or another, and he said all the bass players wanted to be Paul Chambers. Before Scott LaFaro, Paul Chambers was the dude. And the bass sounds great on this record. It's just not quite up to Kind of Blue sonics. I don't think they were quite taking the care. Maybe they thought of it as a blowing session. Part of jazz track ended up on a movie soundtrack. Then Basic Miles has a silly highway, Miles into the sunset. But just to hear this group, kind of just what you probably would hear at a concert, that's a revelation in itself in high fidelity with really, really great sonics. Not as great at Kind of Blue, but still much better than any of those compilations I've heard. Basic Miles sounded horrible. I still have it here somewhere. It's very thin. I haven't heard the other two compilations this appeared on. But anyway, this gets a thumbs up from me, and thanks for watching.